This morning, for my message, I would like to go over this recently. The head of our Honganji, who is the Monshu, Kojun Otani, has written a pledge that he would like all of our Honganji followers to read at our services. And so I want to go over this today and explain it, and especially because he's going to be making a visit here to our Orange County Buddhist Church in September. Early September. So this is like having the Pope come to see your church, so to speak. So let me explain a little bit about this pledge and our Monshu. So the Monshu, that's literally the Chinese characters for Monshu, literally means gate, which is Mon, and Shu means master, so master of the gate. So Buddhist monasteries, of course, had a complex in ancient times, and so the gate to the monastery is sort of the entrance to that monastery. So the master of the gate is the term that we use for the head of our tradition or our particular school or sect of Shin Buddhism, which is Nishi Honganji. So there are 10 different subsects or denominations of Jodo Shinshu. And Nishi Honganji is one of the largest, and Higashi Honganji is the other large one. And they're both present in Los Angeles as well. But in Japan, our Nishi Honganji has about 10,000 temples. 10,000 temples, if you can imagine that. Here in the United States, we have about 60 temples. So the Monshu is a direct descendant of Shinran Shonin, and we honor Shinran Shonin on the right-hand altar here. The middle altar is for the Buddha, Amida Buddha. The left altar is for a patriarch many years after Shinran Shonin. His name is Myonyo. He sent the first Buddhist minister to America to spread Buddhism over here, so we honor that Monshu on the left. But our present Go-Monshu is a direct descendant of Shinran Shonin, 25 generations. See, 25 generations since Shinran Shonin. Now, part of this is cultural. In Japan, it's a patrilineal society. So if your father has a tofu shop and you're the oldest son, you have to take over the tofu shop. That's the sort of custom of the culture. If your father's a farmer and you're the oldest son, you're obligated to take over the farm. And the positive side to this in Japan is that you have generations and generations of arts and crafts that are handed down, for centuries. For example, the beautiful altar that we have here, the company that refurbished it is called Wakabayashi. That company has been in existence over 300 years. Family operated, father to son, sort of family business. And so that's where this arts and crafts, the skill and the wisdom is transmitted from generation to generation. But also in Buddhism, it's a patrilineal society, and so the head of our denomination is a direct descendant of Shinran Shonin, 25 generations. So when we speak to the Go-Monshu, we add this honorific Go in the beginning. Okay, so that term is actually Monshu, but we don't just say, hey, Monshu. We say, we go, you have to add the Go. You say Go-Monshu, and then you also add another honorific at the end, Sama. So it's Go-Monshu Sama. Go-Monshu Sama, when you speak to him directly. Just like in regular Japanese, you add san at the end, like you would say Suzuki-san or Toyota-san, when you're addressing someone. Sama is a more formal way of saying that san. So the go is honorific. So, for example, rice, the word is gohan, but the go is honorific. The actual word is han for rice. But rice is such an important staple item in Asian culture they speak of it very respectfully. So gohan. O is another honorific. So the word for temple is actually tera, tera. But we don't just say tera, we say o tera, o tera. So we add an honorific o before temple. You might not be aware of this, but we have honorifics in our English language as well. There's the highly respected NBA team, the Go Lakers, right? We don't just call them the Lakers, they're the Go Lakers. So we have an honorific in English. I don't know if you recall this very reputable and respected candy bar, the O. Henry bar. So we add the O in front of the Henry bar. We call it the O. Henry bar. And maybe some of you have, when you were children, you played that most honorable card game, Go Fish. You can recall that. So we have honorifics in the English language as well. So our Gomonshu has written a pledge for we Shin Buddhists to read and recite at our services. And so I've also handed it out, but it'll also be coming up on the screen. I like to look at this sort of one stanza at a time. So our pledge. The first stanza is, breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words just like the kind Buddha. Breaking out of my shell. So our shell is the shell of our ego self, which prevents us from living like a Buddha who lives with warmth and kindness. And this shell of our ego self, it could be a shell of shyness, it could be a shell of lack of self-esteem, but it could also be a shell of pride and arrogance. So our unenlightened life is one in which we're kind of in this shell that's limiting our own life. And so we cannot break that shell ourselves. It takes the Dharma, the teachings, the light and wisdom of the Buddha to break the shell of our ego self. So I'd like to share this metaphor with you today, and we're going to also be reading another example of this metaphor after we go through this pledge. This is a metaphor of the chick that's about to hatch and the mother hen. So I first heard this metaphor from my teacher in Japan, Professor Shigaragi, and it's a metaphor that's used to illustrate spiritual awakening in the Buddhist tradition. So Buddhism is saying that we're like a little chick that's inside this shell of our ego self. And the chick, as it matures, it hears the voice of the mother hen sort of calling out, and so it begins to peck from the inside. But the chick itself does not have the power to break through that shell. And it takes the mother hen to also, in a sense, simultaneously, sensing the maturity of the chick, sensing that it's now wanting to be born, then now the mother hen begins to peck from the outside. And together, this chick is hatched and is born into the world. So this is a metaphor for our spiritual awakening in Buddhism. So we're like this chick that's in this shell, but from beyond our ego self, we hear the voice of the teachings, of teachers, of the Dharma, urging us to awaken to our true self, our true life. And that urging from outside our ego self stirs within us now this deep aspiration to live our true life. And together, the shell of our ego self is broken and a new world is opened up to us. This is the metaphor of the chick and the shell and the mother hen that is used quite often in Buddhism to explain this spiritual birth. So in Shin Buddhism, we talk about what's called ojo in Japanese, ojo, and it's translated as birth in the Pure Land. But my interpretation of birth in the Pure Land is not talking about something that takes place at death, like we're going to be born into like a heavenly-like existence. Birth in the Pure Land is talking about this spiritual birth, the chick that breaks out of the shell, awakening to our true self, awakening to our true life in the here and now, when we truly encounter the Dharma. So when you read Shin Buddhist materials, it talks about this ojo, or birth, but we can take it to mean this spiritual birth. Okay, so we cannot break that shell ourselves. It takes the Dharma, the teachings, the light, and wisdom of the Buddha to break the shell of our ego self. Now the next verse of the pledge goes, not becoming lost in greed, anger, and ignorance. I shall think and act with an open mind, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. So greed, anger, and ignorance are called the three poisons that can spoil or ruin our good life. Greed, anger, and ignorance. I always tell people the best place to experience the three poisons of the greed, anger, and ignorance is to go to Las Vegas. I've told this example many times here, but I was just there, first weekend of August, and I experienced the three poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance. So I always tell people at least a couple times a year, I have to go to Las Vegas so that I can really experience Buddhism, so I can really experience these three poisons. So those of you that like to go to Las Vegas or casino occasionally, you can relate to this. So you go and you play slot machine, and you know, if you line up these 3 sevens, it's this big jackpot, 1,000 coins or 1,000 credits or whatever it is. So you're playing and you get 7, 7, 7. Oh, geez, so close. You know, you line 2 of them up, one was just off. Oh, almost. It's gonna hit. So you play some more. 7, 7, 7. Now you just missed it by 1 there. Oh, it's so close. So you keep playing. Doesn't hit. Finally, you give up. Oh, I put too much money into this machine. So you give up and you walk away. But you look back. The lesson is never look back. If you leave a machine, never look back. Just go clear to the other side of the casino. Because inevitably what happens is if you look back, as soon as you leave that machine, someone walks up, maybe a little old lady, puts in her coins or whatever. First pull. 3 sevens. Cha-ching. She hits the jackpot. And you think to yourself, that lady hit my jackpot, as if I own that machine and that jackpot. And you're all upset. So now you're greedy, you're angry, and you're stupid all at the same time. So 3 poisons right there, all in one experience. It could be anywhere. Maybe you like to go shopping, and that's your weakness. So you go to the mall, oh, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. Maybe it's computers. Oh, the latest computer comes out, oh, I want to buy this MacBook Pro or whatever. Or maybe it's cars, you know. The latest model comes out, you're looking at Car and Driver magazine all the time. So we could fall into this greed, anger, and ignorance. The 3 poisons can spoil or ruin our good life. One of the clearest examples of this being sucked into this greed, anger, and ignorance also is the world of drugs or alcohol addiction. You fall into that, and how do you get out? See, how do you get out? I tell our young people, I tell our high school age kids, you know, the way drugs are now, you can't even just experiment. You can't even think, oh, I just want to try it once. No, To try it once is to get hooked, because the nature of the drug is so strong, so addictive, that even just trying it once, and now you're hooked. Now all you can do is try to find the money to get the next fix, and you're stuck into this cycle. So, the three poisons can spoil or ruin our good life. The next stanza of the pledge goes, "Not putting myself first, I will share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha." See, not putting myself first. But our normal everyday life of our ego self, we want to put ourselves first. We want to be first in line to get tickets to the concert or the show. We want to be first in line to board the airplane. We want to be first in line at the buffet. And so we always put ourselves first. But the awakened person, like the Buddha, puts others first, feels the joy and sadness of others. See, if I was an awakened person, going back to that Las Vegas example, if this lady hits the jackpot, if I'm an awakened person, I should be very happy for her. I should go over there and congratulate. Hey, congratulations, I'm so happy that you hit the jackpot. But no, see, I don't feel that. Oh, she hit my jackpot. An awakened person feels the joy and sadness of others. And that's why I'm not, or we're not, an awakened person like the Buddha, because we put ourselves first, and we do not feel the joy and sadness of others to the degree that an awakened person does. And then the last stanza goes, "Realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who works tirelessly to liberate all." See, realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who works tirelessly to liberate all. So, life is a gift. See, life is a gift. It's not an entitlement. We sometimes feel that we're entitled to this, we're entitled to that. But, Buddhism is saying to us, life is a gift. We all know that we were born because of our parents. So we have two parents. And our parents have parents. So we have 4 grandparents. And they have parents. So we have 8 great-grandparents. Each generation, that number doubles, right? 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents. Each generation, that number doubles. I think in math, it's called something like exponential or something like that. Go home and do this on your calculator. Go back 10 generations, it's over 1,000 people. Go back 20 generations. What is that, 2 to the power of 20, right? Go back 20 generations. You know what that number is? It's over 1 million people. 1 million people, just 20 generations. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. 20 generations, it's over 1 million people. And if any one of those 1 million people are missing, I wouldn't have been born into this world. It's like hitting the lottery. The fact that we're born, the odds are even greater than hitting the lottery. But yet, we don't look at our life as a gift, and we feel we're so entitled. So, the Gomonshu, very beautifully in his pledge here, is saying life is a gift. Life is a gift. And I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who works tirelessly to liberate all. When we live our true life, something from inside, then we can work tirelessly. And it doesn't matter what career it is. I always talk about in Japan, I just loved, my wife and I used to love to go to this very cheap dive for gyoza and ramen and fried rice. And it was really a dive, believe me. But the food was so good, so inexpensive, and you sit at this counter, and so you could see the chefs, the cooks are right there in front of you making the fried rice and the ramen. And we used to love watching this guy making the gyoza. And so he's making the gyoza, but he's also running the cash register. So he's putting the gyoza on the grill 5 at a time. He could grab 5 gyoza without dropping a single one, puts them on the grill, and then goes to the cash register. Someone is leaving, so takes care of that customer. People come in and they want to-go items, and they've got their Tupperware, and he's putting orders of gyoza in the Tupperware for them, and he's doing all this, and I'm watching it. I said, gee, he's going to burn the gyoza. He hasn't touched that. He hasn't checked the gyoza. But at the perfectly right time, he comes back to the grill, flips over the gyoza. It's perfectly browned. And it was just a joy to watch this man cook, smiling, happy. And I used to think to myself, I doubt if there's any CEO of a major company who's any happier than this man that's making the gyoza. Works tirelessly at the end of his shift. You know, his shift probably goes flying by, whether it's 8 hours, whether it's 10 hours. It goes flying by. Someone who doesn't live from inside, they're always watching the clock, right? I remember growing up on my dad's farm. You know, I had to drive tractor, and I just wasn't into farming like my dad, and I tried not to look at my watch, because then it would make the day go by so much slower. So if I didn't look at my watch, it would go by a little faster. So I'm driving tractor, I'm looking at the sun. So, gee, it must be about, it must be about at least 11 o'clock by now. And I look, oh, it's only 9:30. I got a long ways to go to lunch break, But people who work from inside, from something inside, is tireless. The day goes flying by. Doesn't matter whether you're a gyoza chef, whether you're a CEO, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a minister. See, has to come from inside. Like the Buddha who works tirelessly to liberate all. So, if you'll take out your paper, and let's read this pledge together out loud. Okay, ready? Breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall think and act with an open mind, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I will share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who tirelessly works to liberate all. Join me in Gassho. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Okay, thank you very much. So now I'm going to go into the little bit more of a study class format.